Okay, welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. We have some breaking news to get to on this Friday afternoon. Hope everybody out there is getting set to have a fantastic weekend. Unfortunately for the San Francisco 49ers, negative news on the Christian McCaffrey front. We're going to dive into that, what it all means, what Kyle Shannahan had to say, and then we'll look elsewhere on the injury report for San Francisco to see which players are going to give it a go and play against the Vikings on Sunday in an intriguing and sneaky good game on the NFL Week 2 slate. Before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's 49ers Report, and that is PXG, Parsons Extreme Golf. Be sure to schedule a club fitting today. It's one of the most incredible experiences for golf fans out there, taking your old clubs, and if they don't outperform the PXG Black Ops irons, then PXG will give you a $100 MasterCard. All you have to do is set up your club fitting at pxg.com. There are hundreds of locations available, including one in the East Bay for those of you watching from the San Francisco area. I got my PXG irons last weekend, took them to the driving range, and it was incredible. The ball flight, the velocity, the carry, and just the control and the softness that I was able to have on the clubs. PXG.com, set up your club fitting. The analytics on the technology is wild. It really was eye-opening because you can see all types of data from your swing speed, which direction your club faces. They'll make adjustments from there to get you set up with the best irons in the golf game that are also very affordable, and tell them that the 49ers Report, Chase Sr. and Chat Sports sent you. So, let's get to the breaking news here. The 49ers just got off the practice field in Santa Clara for their final preparations against Minnesota. They are going to travel to Minneapolis later today out of the Bay Area to take on the Vikings in Week 2. And oddly enough, San Francisco has not beat Minnesota in Minneapolis since 1992. Now, during that stretch, they've been the far better team, but wins have eluded them when playing the Vikings on the road. That is 7 straight losses for San Francisco against the Vikings, and they're going to look to end that drought, and they're going to have to do it without 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey, the reigning NFL Offensive Player of the Year. So Kyle Shannahan just met with the media, and Christian McCaffrey did not practice today, so he had some indications that maybe it was trending in a direction in which he wasn't going to be able to play after practicing yesterday, and Shanahan said that McCaffrey is out against Minnesota. He will miss his second consecutive game, and he is now a candidate to go on short-term IR. Earlier this week, we talked about this here on the show after the report from Marco Martinez when he had said that there was a possibility that McCaffrey was going to go on IR. Those were conversations that were taking place within the Niners organization. And on that day, I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday, Shanahan said McCaffrey was not a candidate to go on IR. So a couple of days later, he is, and this is why. He was on the field yesterday in practice, and Shanahan said that following practice going into today, it's the worst that McCaffrey has felt while dealing with this calf and Achilles issue. McCaffrey said the other day he was approaching this game week as if he was going to play. He said, that's my mentality always. And John Lynch and Kyle Shannahan have both said there are good days when McCaffrey feels good. There are bad days in which the Achilles and the calf flares up. Obviously, when that happens, a lot of usage on that leg. And the possibilities of that injury being very severe, they're real. And if you suffer that torn Achilles, it can be a devastating and catastrophic injury, especially for a running back who's 28 years old with some wear and tear. So now McCaffrey is a candidate to go on IR. I think this is the best play. If it's not getting better and he keeps trying to give it a go, yet there are good days and bad days, and when you factor in the severity of an Achilles injury, put him on IR, save him from himself. He loves ball and is so dedicated to the game. I respect that. But brother, you got to get healthy. And a Achilles injury is not anything that you want to mess with. So that's the situation that the Niners are in right now. Shanahan said, quote, something that we're considering now about him going on IR. Yesterday was his worst day. It's on and off. But with yesterday having the most pain, it's something we're going to discuss in the next 24 hours. I would expect the Niners in the lead up to the game on Sunday to place Christian McCaffrey on IR. It'll be short-term IR, so he will miss the next 4 weeks at least, and just let him try to rest that calf and Achilles and try to get back healthy. This year is not about week 2 against Minnesota. It's not about week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. This year for 2024 is about winning a Super Bowl championship, and Christian McCaffrey helps you do that. Won't be able to have him if he suffers a bad injury, a calf tear, an Achilles tear. That then would have him out for the rest of the year. So rest him and force him to rest. He's probably fought the organization on this. He's fought himself in trying to return to the practice field. But if it's not getting any better, it's like our moms and our parents would tell us when we were younger, "Mom, my calf hurts." Well, lay off of it. "Mom, it still hurts after 2 weeks." What did I tell you? Rest it and get off of it. It's to the point where this is what has to happen, I believe, for Christian McCaffrey. Now, the Niners' schedule, if CMC were to go on IR, took on the Jets, week 1, of course, and won. You have Minnesota coming up in week 2, on the road against the Rams, week 3, Patriots, week 4, Cardinals, week 5. Both of those latter 2 games are at home. And then maybe a possible return off IR would be week 6 at Seattle, but it's a turf field on Thursday Night Football, or week 7 against the Kansas City Chiefs, a Super Bowl 58 rematch. That would be October 20th. And for those of you complaining about your fantasy team, first of all, I told you on the show, don't draft Christian McCaffrey. I'm very worried about the injury history as well as the calf and the Achilles. It's also so hard to duplicate what he did last year. But if you're bummed out about your fantasy team and you're ripping McCaffrey, you're laying into Tua, saying, "What the F? Now my fantasy season is screwed," nobody cares about your fantasy team. Sorry to tell you that. Before we continue to move forward, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Niners updates every single day right here on the show. We're past 140,000 subscribers. Let's continue to grow the largest independently run Niners channel right here on YouTube. As for other Niners injury news, we have a Ricky Pearsall update. He has started to work out this week with no setbacks. He will travel to Minnesota with the team, but still no date of returning to practice yet. Yetur Gross-Matos, who suffered a knee sprain in the preseason finale against the Raiders, he is going to play. A free agent acquisition, for San Francisco, who is kind of in the mold of an Arden Key, Charles Omenihu type of player, where he can play defensive tackle, and he has a little bit of that inside-out versatility. So Yetur Gross-Matos is going to be a part of the defensive line, defensive end, defensive tackle rotation, Kyle Shannahan said, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. I covered him when he was at Penn State at my previous job, and really talented player who was a second-round pick. His athletic traits are freakish. Well over an 80-inch wingspan. He's tall. He's got some thud to him. He's really strong, and the positional versatility is there. He didn't necessarily live up to expectations with the Carolina Panthers, but that's been one of the most poorly run organizations in the National Football League over the last 4 or 5 years, really since the latter portion of Cam Newton's prime. So you pair Yetur Gross-Matos up with the best defensive line coach in the NFL in Chris Kocurek. I think that he can be a really good player, and the Niners loved having those versatile defensive linemen who can play edge and defensive tackle like Arden Key, Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis. So he's a valuable member of this Niners defensive front, which is also a little bit thin as far as depth goes. Doubtful safety Talanoa Hufanga. No surprises there. The Niners didn't put him on IR to start the year, so clearly they think that he can return within the first 4 weeks, but no reason to rush that. The defense was flying around last week. George Odom got the start in his place. And then questionable linebacker D. Winters. Jawan Jennings practiced yesterday, practiced today. He is going to play. 5 catches for 64 yards last week against the New York Jets. Actually led the Niners in receiving, and of course, as Jawan Jennings always does, a lot of those grabs very clutch in some big-time situations. PXG, the sponsor of today's San Francisco 49ers report from the home studio. No matter where I am, I'm always bringing you some Niners breaking news. Set up your club fitting today. These irons, straight up incredible. They have improved my golf game, and I can't wait to take the next step in my golfing life. I'm not going to call it a career because it's not. Way too busy to play golf frequently. Wish I could play more when I'm older. Maybe that'll happen. My favorite job growing up was working at a golf course, waking up at 4 or 5 a.m., cutting greens, tee boxes, approaches. And as I've gotten older, of course, I've appreciated the game of golf. And if I break 90, it's an awesome day. I like to live in the 80s, and PXG is certainly helping to make that possible. Book your club fitting, pxg.com. They'll set you up in front of a golf simulator. You'll have a golf instructor who works at PXG right behind you, evaluating your swing. You have the technology to assess what you're doing, how you can improve, and how these clubs perform. Awesome experience, and tell them that the 49ers Report sent you. Everybody have a great weekend. Watch party coming up on Sunday. Niners, Vikings. Content still to come tomorrow and every single day, because that's what we do. See ya.